Welcome to Between the Before and After, a podcast about the stories that shape us. I'm your host, Coach John McLernan, and each episode I bring you an inspiring guest with a moving story that shines a light on the power of the human spirit. Before we dive in, I want to let you know about two very important things. Number one, the stories shared here are often gritty, raw, and vulnerable, and very likely will include speaking about sensitive topics suited for a mature audience. Number two, this podcast is also broadcast live on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. So on whatever platform you follow myself or Freedom Nutrition Coaching, you have the opportunity to participate in this discussion during the live stream. And we encourage your participation both by commenting and asking questions. And so this podcast is about exploring the stories that take place between the before and after photos, not just in the realm of weight loss, but in all areas of life. So let's dive in. All right, welcome back to another episode of Between the Before and After. It's cliche to say it, but I'm excited about the conversation I'm going to have today. It looks like we could have some familial connections if the lighting was a little bit different, because we were talking about having slightly ginger beards before we got started. So pretty sure there's got to be some sort of lineage, maybe going back to Northern Ireland or something like that. So I should mention for those listening who I'm chatting with today, Tim Branyan. Tim Branyan's got a great story from, troubled youth to military guy to military vet to now a tech entrepreneur running a 7-figure company and living a really awesome life. And so we want to dive more into that story and see, how did you get to this place and what did you have to overcome to get there? And so I'm going to throw it over to you and just let you give a little bit of backstory on who is Tim Branyan. Yeah, no, Jonathan, thank you. Right off the jump, man. Thanks for having me on. We've had a really cool conversation even before this all started, and I'm excited to get into more depth of this. So thank you for the introduction. Again, my name is Tim Branyan. I'm the founder of a platform called TrueFans.com. I've built a lot of different apps and technology over the last 9 years. I was in the Air Force for a short stint, active duty, and then that transitioned into working as a civilian contractor with one of the largest contracting companies in the world, and they change their names every 6 months. So back in the day, it was Triple Canopy. Now it's Constellus Group. Anyway, I've been fortunate to travel all over the world, and ultimately, my story really has always transitioned or changed due to restlessness and discontent. Restlessness and discontent initially, like going back to high school, was a result of hanging around with people that didn't really know where they were going. None of us were really going anywhere fast. So my circle was just mirrors reflecting each other. And it was mainly chasing girls and chasing the party scene and chasing what I considered at that time, like a good time, with no long-term thoughts or repercussions in mind. It was just living, existing, almost waffling. Yeah. So when that ended, it was due to restlessness and discontent, and I knew I needed a change. So I jumped at the chance to join the military. It changed my life. It put me around people who also had desires for change. And I'm just pumped. That was one of the best decisions that I made as a young dude to just do something different. And So I'm kind of curious here. What? Because you grew up in Indiana. I'm not sure if it was like a small town that you grew up in, or
definitely.
Okay. So
definitely, it's a blue collar town in It's called Kokomo, Indiana, not the island.
Yeah, it's didn't the Beach Boys make a famous song about Aruba, Jamaica?
That's what everybody initially thinks, but no, it's a small, more blue collar town. Really, the aortic artery of our city is the Chrysler plant. So a lot of people that work here work in the factories, and humble beginnings. Yeah. So, but very often, young people are doing exactly what it is you're doing. We're sold this dream of the party lifestyle, live it up, soak up your youth, chase girls, do all these amazing things, just live in the moment. But something triggered a shift in that, where you maybe, I don't know if you had a moment where you kind of looked at this and you went this isn't going anywhere. This actually feels really empty. And why I'm sort of steering that direction is because I remember having a moment. I was maybe 20, 21 years old. I was at this party and I looked around the room and I was like, this is it. This is the best that this has to offer me right now. I've got an attractive girlfriend. I've got, I'm watching these people. We're drinking, we're partying, we're listening to music, we're having the time of our life. But I'm like, that's it. I'm going to go home. I'm going to feel depressed because I'm off the high now. And now what? Where do we go from here? So I don't know if you kind of had a moment like that or what caused this shift to take place. So for me, I can't remember an exact moment, and a lot of times I wasn't open to having that moment because I was so distracted that nothing was like, I didn't have quiet time to really think and get tactical or audit my life. But
Mm-mm.
uh, I had always believed that I was destined to do something more. I
Okay.
had this instinctive, and I still have it today. I believe that I'm not just me. I believe it for other people too, maybe even more so than they do at times. Like I
Yeah.
believe that each of us have a calling, each of us have a gift and a talent and something to offer the world. And so at that time, I guess, my moment was just, again, kind of like you looking around and just seeing where I was and what that was resulting in. And then knowing in my gut and my heart that it was time for a change. I needed to do something different if I was going to expect different results. So that for me was a very primitive. It was, I'm going to enlist. And at the
Yeah.
time, dude, it was just, if I go and do this for the military, I can create a really good resume. It was pretty
Right. Yeah.
selfish at first. Like, I can go, I can do this for 4 to 6 years, love it or hate it. I'm going to get some experience. They're going to put money in my pocket. And then worst case scenario, if I hate it or I get out, I'll have a really good resume where I was a federal police officer, I was a military troop, and that's going to look great, and people will hire me, and I can
Right.
make a living. That was really the early, thought process for me.
So there's no like sort of entrepreneurial leanings at that point in time.
Zero.
None.
What, I say that I was, my first hustle in high school was soft modding Xboxes
Okay.
and selling. So I've always been an entrepreneur or a capitalist, if you will. My
Yeah.
market at the time was high school. One of my first hustles was literally I would soft mod people's Xboxes. They would ride my bus stop. I'll give you the logistics. They would ride my
Yeah.
bus
Yeah.
stop with their Xbox. I would take that Xbox, have a 24-hour turnaround where I would bring it back soft modded. It's probably going to throw me in jail at some point. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'll explain it. So then I would sell games to
Yeah.
that soft modded Xbox that could also browse the internet, that could also play Sega or different emulators. So it was not
Okay.
only an upfront, but there was also a continuity piece to it of residual passive income through the new games
Okay.
that would come out. So take just descriptions of what people wanted at school, and then I would go to Family Video or these rental stores. I don't
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
I can go to jail. I was under 18, so I was
Yeah.
this was years back. So
We're just telling the story for entertainment purposes.
right, yeah, this is just a story anyway.
What does it mean to soft mod?
So back in the day, the normal Xbox, there was a methodology in which you could change its firmware. So
Okay.
I had this elaborate setup where I built, I really took apart my dad's computer and turned it into my own sort of custom machine that would, Frankenstein these Xboxes. I could get into
Okay.
the software through a memory card, and then I could rewrite scripts and rewrite programs and add my own stuff.
Oh, okay.
And
So you kind
then
of
I could
almost like you're like
reskin
hacking
it.
into them, or
Yeah, I could do everything from like changing the lights to be different colors on the Xbox to, back in the day, a normal Xbox, if we got any nerd gamers watching this, you'll know you couldn't browse the internet on
yeah.
on a regular Xbox. Well, with mine, you could. So
Okay.
word spread pretty quick because it was pretty cool that, you could play thousands of different games, like a Nintendo game or Sega game. And
Right.
anyway,
Yeah.
that was, so I'd always been an entrepreneur, but I never, or a capitalist, I was always looking for
Yeah.
opportunity, but in the military, I was really focused on a job. As I got older, I imagined that wealth came from working jobs. And I thought
Mm-hmm.
that if you were rich or if you had things, you were a doctor or a lawyer, some sort of like professional, you were a surgeon.
Right.
I didn't really like equate it to multiple streams of income. And I didn't really know about like investing or anything like that. I was completely oblivious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you had sort of this fascination with technology and what it could potentially do.
Yeah, I've always been aggressively curious, man. Like, so I was a gamer. I'm still a gamer.
Yeah.
I love playing video games even now with my buddies. It's camaraderie, it's competition. But there was a world where I would get to the end of a game, especially like an online game, and then it's like, okay, we've done everything, we've ranked. Now what? Now I'm gonna hack or I'm gonna mod, and I was that guy that people hated. And anyway, that's.
You were looking for ways to be, some people call it lazy, but I call it being efficient. Like you just where somebody because there's like a mindset around this, right? Like you just got to work hard. You just got to work hard, and you got to put your head down, and you're like, that's probably a simpler, easier way of doing this, where I don't have to kill myself. And, so this is kind of in the back of your mind. But so you joined the Air Force, and what trade were you, or what branch, I guess, or what subset of the Air Force were you in?
Yeah, so I somehow got in. I got lucky because I joined around 9/11, and they had lowered the standard, so even the dummies could get through, man. So I barely got in with my low ASVAB score, and I was on the next thing smoking, man, to get out of my current situation and jet out. And it made sense, again, thinking about the resume thing. I joined as a security forces member, so I was what other career fields call like military police. So in that world, there is static security, there's nuclear security, there is some squadrons where they just train and deploy all over the world. My career was more so static security, law enforcement, and then I volunteered to deploy whenever I could because I was single, no kids, and I loved the adventure. So
right, okay. So where's some of the places you got deployed to?
So I was deployed to Kuwait. Was deployed to Qatar. I've been to Iraq, and thankfully I didn't have to go to Afghanistan. I almost did, but yeah, I think I say thankfully. I think I wanted to go. There was a task or there was a down plane or something, and they were going to go, create security or whatever. But yeah, so those are some of the places I've been. And then as a contractor, man, which is in support of the Department of Defense, I've been to Abu Dhabi. I was in Ireland. I lived in Kuwait and Dubai for like 3.5 years.
Okay.
So I've got a lot of experience in all parts of the world. A lot of time spent
in kind of the Middle East as well.
Yeah, too much time actually. I'd like to never go back.
Yeah. No, it's cool to be kind of honest about that. In my mind, because look, I'm Canadian. I grew up with like a winter where I live. We get it's snowing right now. Like, yeah. And so the thought, and I've been to Dubai, and I remember it was like 46 degrees Celsius, which is like, I don't know, 112, 114 Fahrenheit, just some ridiculous number.
Pretty warm.
Like people exist in this, and it's cool. They have like air conditioned bus stops, but like, man, this is just like misery. I don't know how I'd survive year round. Like I'm made for the cold.
To explain to listeners, if you've never experienced that type of heat, I'm going to assume you've got some people from Canada or people that have never, the best way to describe, and this is how I tell my family, is if you're getting ready to get the pizza out of the oven and you put your face over the oven door. Welcome to Kuwait. Like your pizza's done, you're excited, but then you get hit with that blast of heat. That's it. Welcome to the desert.
That's such an interesting analogy because that just brought me back to like Singapore. So Singapore, I flew in there, and in the airport is beautifully air conditioned. Man, it's like the most amazing airport in the world. Like if you haven't been to Singapore, you got to go. But then the doors open and you walk out and just wham, you're just hit with like this wall of like steam and humidity. And like, you're like, how the heck do you breathe in this environment where, it feels like my lungs are just filled up with burning steam. But that's what it felt like.
You don't. You just try to live. You try to survive.
Yeah. So that was enough for you to go, okay, because when you say you're doing a contract, you're now no longer an active service member, but the work you're doing is in support of the military. Is that correct?
Right. I was at a civilian status, and when I was out there, I was doing similar work, but getting paid like quadruple the amount. So when my active service stopped, I went to college for a short stint and realized like this was not for me. I felt like cattle, and felt like everybody there. And I had really high aspirations, man. Like I went to school with slacks and a collared T-shirt, and I'm used to like military classrooms, and I'm on this trajectory in life where it's like I want to succeed, I want to win. We got a mission to do. I'm high speed at that point, and as far as my thought process characteristics, and when I got to school, I was very prepared. And what I was met with was a bunch of, an environment where people didn't know why they were there. An environment where people weren't really engaged. Like the professor was teaching and explaining how the syllabus, I think is what it's called, the checklist of things that we're going to get done. And dude, there was people with headphones in. There was a dude like sleeping. There's people having side conversations.
I did that, man.
People having side conversations, and I'm like attentive, like I'm watching,
you're
but I'm like distracted, like. Holy shit, is this really like, this is college? Like this is what's going on? And I was really bummed out. I actually got pretty depressed in college because I was like, because it forced, again, restlessness and discontent. It forced me to start figuring out, okay, what can I do? What is the solution for this? I'm not happy here, but I don't have to stay here either. Like I can do something different. And so that adaptation was having conversations with people that I had heard about the contracting world and the type of money that you could make and you could travel. And it just made a lot of sense. I didn't have anything holding me back really. So I started putting out applications. I started talking to people and networking, and it really is like kind of a tight knit group. You have to know somebody in a lot of cases to get in. And I was fortunate, man. They picked me and, got out to the desert.
Because I went to university and something sort of similar, but like I just got this restless feeling like that this isn't really productive. I was being groomed to go into a PhD program, and like the semester before I was going to go start my PhD, I was like, forget this, man, I'm out. I'm not just going to spend another 4 years of my life working for a pittance for someone to take credit for my work and for me to get letters after my name that maybe nobody actually cares about outside of this whole field.
Right.
And so I joined the military just for challenges. Like I'm going to join.
I ended up joining the Navy, right?
Yeah. So I got into engineering, but I wasn't like, in one hand, I really enjoyed the structure of the military, but I wasn't a good fit because probably similar to you, I would look around and I'd find like, this is inefficient. This is a waste of time. This is stupid. Why are we doing this? Mm-hmm. And I opened my mouth probably too many times to point out. And it's like, shut your mouth. This is how we do this. You fall into line.
Yeah.
I wasn't a good fit. And so on the educational side, I had the education of someone that was 3 ranks above me because I kept going through these courses and flying through them. But because I didn't open my mouth at the wrong times, I wasn't getting promoted.
You didn't play the politics of it.
Right. So in Navy, I don't know what the ranks would be like in the US, but it's called like a leading seaman. So I got 2 hooks. It's about the 3rd rank up. You go ordinary, able, and leading, and then you master, and then you get into like the non-commissioned officers. So the rank or the position that I held in the department was one of like a 2nd level non-commissioned officer, like a petty officer. But my rank was like a grunt. And I was like, I had people like that were higher ranking than me, but lower than me in the department. It was just like this. I was like, this is stupid, man. Yeah. So I actually came home. My wife and I hopped in a plane and flew to Mexico, and just like, we're just going to travel the world for a while and just figure something out, So,
funny. Yeah, man. Yeah. I was really good at just shutting up and coloring, to be honest. And I'd never been that way my whole life. I was good at just okay, this is what you guys say we need to do. I was on this trajectory. I felt like where I trusted their ability to kind of guide and maneuver us. I felt like I was growing, so it was cool that they were directing this. Right. And I didn't really have, all this logistics knowledge or how to, manage a schedule or what was what. I was pretty mindless, to be honest, like in the whole operational side of things. And so it was cool. Later in life, like I know I can look back now and see how we were doing things, and I know, like, while I would enjoy just being an employee or being someone who's just all I have to do is do what I'm told. I can show up and I don't have to think. I don't have to write compliance stuff. I don't have to be the guy that's got answers. I can just while that's awesome, I know that I would see things at a different perspective and be really burnt out, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Or want to express ideas and create change. And in a typical world, whether it's military or corporate world, it's not always about that. It's about politics and who likes you and all this. And I've never been good at, I don't know how to play that truly.
Right.
And I'm not a chess player like that. I'm always like results or mission oriented or objective oriented. So I don't do well in environments that are that way ever. It's just not. I don't know how to play. So
So you figure, okay, after doing some contract work, and you're making way more money doing that than being, I guess, a grunt. Then you decide, I see something here. I see an opportunity here that. And what was it that you saw? Because we're sort of moving into you're maybe becoming a tech entrepreneur. Maybe you already were a tech entrepreneur. What did you see?
So I when I was out there, I was making really good money, but it was Groundhog's Day, and I met some of my best friends ever. Like we had a group of friends that I've connected with in the military, but also out there in contracting, and we would travel around. We were having fun. We worked really hard, but we played hard too.
Yeah.
I remember we had a night in Dubai. It was like a $12,000 night, just just going out to a club and in Dubai and buying a bottle and just, pretending to be celebrities. We rented a luxury vehicles and all this stuff, man. It was a blast, but like looking back at it, I think that was getting towards more the moments of like, again, restlessness and discontent. I was in this routine of going to work, working really long days. It was super hot. Yeah. And I had everything like monetarily and stuff wise, like I could buy anything I wanted. I had no bills. Transportation was taken care of. Food was taken care of. My really nice apartment, literally like less than a block away from the Persian Gulf.
Right.
Literally a sheik's house was right in front of my building. I lived in a beautiful place, but I was unhappy, man. I was lonely, like very, very lonely. I didn't have, there was no woman in my life, just all dudes, all grunts. I was unfulfilled. I wasn't really in alignment with my purpose. I was just trading time for money. Yeah. And I remember in this moment is the closest restlessness and discontent moment I've had. So it's still there for sure. Fresh that I would read quotes about time. I would dwell in the moment of like, this is what I'm doing and here's what's happening around me and I'm not happy and just very anxious to find what the next thing was going to be, but didn't have a clue. So the only thing I could do was start writing things down and start doing Google search and start searching and asking and seeking. So that's, instead of just like wallowing in my own misery. And I know a lot of people do that and that's cool for a minute. You shouldn't do it very long.
Right. Yeah.
You need to get proactive. Like you can feel the pain and cry a little bit or be in a little bit of suffering, but then start planning and thinking. And that's what I did, man. I wrote on, I had this green book. I say book. It's we call those things notepad.
Notepad. Yeah.
And I filled like every single page with ideas from a hot dog stand, tater tot stand, to a hookah bar, to a franchise, to a restaurant, to all these different traditional businesses that I could think of at the time. And then I started doing Google searches like top 5 business, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I came across an ad of a guy from Australia that was launching an app. And I loved the concept of the app. And I thought, apps, this is brilliant. Man, what if I launched an app? I could be a global company. It doesn't cost that much to initially engineer, I don't think.
Right.
I could find a dev team that could help me put this together. I've got an idea. There's so many different things I could do with it. It would allow me to use my gift of like communication and networking and also solving problems for like this huge, conglomeration of people, because tech is a needed, wanted thing. So yeah, man, I got involved with enthusiasm on fire. Not a whole lot of formal education.
Well, but I think, what's really valuable is the fact that you had to get to this place though, where you had to get this place of discontent, where you got to this place where like sort of a similar but different moment to like that I had when I was 21, where it's like, this can't be all there is to it. There's got to be something else. And so now I'm going to go digging. And I think every person that has an opportunity to get to that place and start digging and to be uncomfortable is like, that's a necessary step in the journey to getting to where you are.
Yeah, and some people, man, they stay stuck too long, or they never have this breakthrough where it's like, okay, enough is enough. Like I hit mine, thankfully, like I hit mine pretty, I'd say at a good moment, like when okay, I'm going to do something now, instead of like, I think there's a danger there if you don't change or if you don't do anything different and you're still expecting results, or you're still like in this place of hope without action. That's where things get really rough for people, and it ends up changing their psyche, or it ends up harming them more than what it would be to get it to the other side of fear or action.
This is really interesting, just from a behavioral psychology standpoint, right? Because you think about what our primal brain is trying to do is to keep us safe, and familiarity equals safety. And but there's I think what makes us human is that, we rise above sort of the primal urges in our brain where we just want to be safe and comfortable. And we go, there's more, I can do more. I want to do more. I have this gift, or I have this ability. And, I feel very similar to you in a sense that I think every person has a gift. And like in the world of coaching that I'm a part of, like my goal in one sense is try to unlock people. I try to view myself as a locksmith, where I go, let me pick the lock to the cage that you're living in and see if we can unlock that and see what's kind of waiting for you. And so, you kind of did that, and you took a leap. And because I think people would look at where you're at right now, and they go like, look at this guy, he's a young guy, successful, like probably no financial worries, tech company, looks like you're living the dream life. And social media, it has been phenomenal, but it has this way of really, why I love this medium is because we get to pull back the curtain and go, well, let's actually see what's happening here. Social media doesn't give us the chance. We just see sort of the polished, projection,
sure.
That kind of stuff.
The filter.
Yeah. So you start this tech company, and it seems like, I'm just going to create an app and make millions of dollars. It's just easy, right?
Yeah, it worked just like that too. It was a snap of the finger. I've seen nothing but success. There's actually been no failure whatsoever. Yeah. It's just been wonderful, dude.
Yeah. Just a smooth ride.
Now sign up for my course,
Yeah, sign up for your $10,000 course in 12 weeks, and it'll turn you into a 6-figure or 7-figure entrepreneur or something like that. That's how it works. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so it doesn't actually work like that.
We'll pull back the curtain. Like, raw and real, I failed. I failed for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's more than what a lot of people are even like comfortable at first investing in their business or themselves or in coaching in general to bridge that learning curve. So I have failed enthusiastically, and I'm still failing enthusiastically to this day. So the paradigm shift that what I have developed over the years is this awesome, sickening sort of mentality of, when things are bad, thank you for things.
Right.
So that it's this, there is nothing that can destroy me. Number one, I've got faith in my creator, faith in God. And there is literally nothing that can, my soul is good.
Right.
And because I have that faith, so that's like my foundation.
Yeah.
But with that comes my ability to, when things happen to me, something, and these are family things, like me and my wife are having, we get into an argument. We're angry about something. It's normally something really petty, like the dishes or the bed didn't get made or something happened with a poopy diaper or something ridiculous. I'm human just like everybody else. And it's these moments, or for an example, the kids make a mess on the floor, and the initial response would be, dang, I got to pick up all these Cheerios, or all over the floor, My response, and this is universal, I try to make it universal in everything in my life, is thank God I get to pick these things up. Thank God I have dexterity in my fingers. Thank God I can see, and I have vision in my eyes to pick these things up. Thank God my back is in good shape where I can bend down. Thank goodness I get to show my kids an opportunity to learn how to clean properly. And in that moment, when you're grateful and present, it shifts everything. Yeah. And that's my secret. If there was a secret, and I didn't, I didn't come up with this. This isn't even like my thing. It's now my thing to give because it's helping me in my life. So I hope that, that can be of value to somebody else who maybe gets angry or irritable or looks at things typically pessimistically.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I've got a 13-month-old. A little boy, most beautiful little boy in the world. Like, he's the cutest boy in the world. No, hands down, right? No bias at all. Right. Yeah. But, he's really, of course, bonded to my wife, and I love it. It's the most beautiful thing. Like, motherhood to me is just like mind-boggling.
Dude, they're superheroes.
Oh, it's the most incredible thing to watch. So, but my wife, she's also a performer. She does theater and stuff like that. She's an improv performer, and she's just amazingly talented. And so sometimes she's out for the night. Doing maybe a social engagement, networking, something like that. And so then I'm stuck with my kid, and he's like mad because mom's not here to put me to sleep. And he screamed for an hour and a half straight. I didn't know that was possible and it was such an interesting moment to be in, because I'm like, I'm with him, the lights are dim, I'm in the bedroom, and nope, I'm not, I won't hold you I'm not being in your arms, Dad, like shove, get out of here. But he wouldn't necessarily leave my side. But he was just frustrated. He was just screaming, and he would like flop over and he'd pound his hands and things. And what surprised me in this whole situation was just kind of my ability to sort of check out and kind of observe from a third party and go, what's happening with him right now? He's trying to communicate something he's feeling right now, and he's using the only tools he has to explain the distress that he feels that his mom isn't there. Mm-hmm. He's not, because there's a temptation to want to make it about me. Oh, you little snot or whatever, you're just making my life miserable and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, he's trying to communicate something. And so I was like, all right, dude, we're here and the situation's not changing. If you want to cuddle, I'll give you a cuddle. He's not a snuggler though. But then at some point it was just this hilarious moment where He stands up straight, gives one more primal scream, and then face plants, and he's asleep. I was like, like he'd got every last scream out, and then he just face planted on the bed and was out. But I think in that moment I was like, okay, like that's probably one of the most mentally trying things to go through, is an hour and a half of a kid screaming nonstop, and to not like lose my cool about this whole situation.
Oh, and, totally. No, that's awesome. I'm immediately just like, bravo for you, not only as a human, but as a dad, to be able to like get outside the box and think about the scenario. And I totally, like, dude, I was in a combat zone. I've been to pre-deployment training. I've done a lot of, you're military dude too. You went through boot camp.
You get woken up by.
But the hardest thing, I swear to God, is being a dad and like being a parent and dealing with the various nuances and things that come with having kids. It's a whole different, it's a psychological game, it's an emotional game. It's a lot. And I'm just realistic. So whenever I hear, it's a congratulations to people that are having, babies and stuff like that. But I'm so real with like dads in particular, because I know what it feels like. And I've been through tough stuff. Like I really try to let them know, get ready. Like, get your ass ready, because this is, number one, they need you. It's the most important title you'll ever have in life. But be prepared to be selfless and work and be that, be the coach and the pillar the family needs, man. It's no joke.
Yeah. And and it's funny because like I share that partly not necessarily to give myself a pat on the back, but I really to highlight, so 5 years ago I would not be that person. I would have been the angry dad who thought that this kid was doing this to make my life miserable. And I probably would have lashed out and said some harsh words to him and that kind of thing. And it would have been a really frustrating situation.
Right.
And so it's not that necessarily I have a superpower, but I think over time, what I've kind of cultivated is this ability to take one step back and sort of check in with my emotions. What am I feeling now? Because obviously I felt frustrated in that moment because I wanted to help him. I wanted to comfort him, all that kind of stuff. But this ability to kind of step back and go, okay. And it's a little bit of a spin. I love the way that you framed it, the dexterity to pick up Cheerios, the ability to bend down and pick them up, the sight to see, like just deciding what am I going to be grateful for in this moment. And I was like, and I think for one, I was like, man, we waited a long time to have kids. Like it took a long time to get to this place, and we only got one right now, and he's healthy. And like I'm just so grateful that he's here. And the kid's probably like the most loved little kid in the world. Maybe every parent thinks that, but like, we have morning snuggle time every morning.
Yeah.
Like, it's like that's a non-negotiable. Doesn't matter how busy my schedule is. I'm like, we're hopping in bed. He's inside, getting a little love sandwich and getting tickled and chewed on and raspberries on his belly and stuff like that. Like just,
it's awesome, dude. No, and it's your investment, and it changes every time they wake up from a nap. They're a different person.
Yeah.
And every day is different. And it's just, tactical freestyle.
Yeah, that's a great way to put
it. Just doing your best, and you don't, it gave me perspective for my own parents. It gave me perspective for their parents, and it just, when I had kids, again, being I believe in a creator. It gave me like the footprints in the sand, where it's like, man, here I have this son who, number one, I knew before he knew himself. Number two, he's made in my image. Number three, I will do anything I can for him. All he needs to do is ask or like allow me to be there. And so like, there's moments where I'll never forget this, dude. This is the moment I'm grateful I got this like epiphany or this paradigm shift where like he was trying to crawl out of his room, and he was young, like he's just crawling. He wasn't even walking or anything yet. And he was frustrated and crying and stuck. He can't open the door. Like he wants to get out. And I'm sitting in the chair. We've got a rocking chair. We had a rocking chair in his room, observing this from a different level of understanding and operation as his creator. Right. He had to do was ask. All I had to do was see him. Right. And I wanted to help him, and I love him, and I deeply desire for him to win in every aspect of life and find true joy and abundance and wealth. Like, so it's very deep, and so that's the correlation that I took. Very primitive kind of correlation. Okay, now I understand. Like maybe I'm an infant in this world. Maybe I am. Let me take a step back there and And for a second, is it possible that I am an infant and all I have to do is ask on a spiritual level or on a energy level? And to me, I think the answer to that is that's it. Like, that's what you do. Yeah. But we're always in our own way. We're always in our way in a lot of cases, because we know it. We know it all in a lot of cases sometimes.
Yeah, no, man, that's a beautiful picture. I absolutely love that. And so, and you talk about, like, you failed many times over and lost a lot of money, I'm sure, along the way.
Yeah.
And and I have, I think, much smaller scale experience of that, like losing my life savings in business that just left me devastated and crushed in a sense. I was like, how the heck do I dig myself out of this? How do I go home to my wife and say, we got nothing? It's all gone. Everything I thought was building.
I cried. I've cried several times. I had meetings where I cried. My dad was in the room. And you ever cried in front of your dad? It's a weird experience, especially as a grown ass man. But no shame, dude. I've cried. I've had serious restlessness and discontent in business. I spent an entire year working on something that I was really excited about that never came to fruition. I was scammed for money in the past, like 25 grand, I think, for a project that never came to life. Like, in my pursuit of finding a good engineering team was the skinning of my knees. It was my Hard Knocks University.
Yeah.
And that was one of the hardest things, was finding, I had the knowledge and systems to distribute and sell technology, from working in e-commerce and other areas and trainings and whatnot, but I didn't know how to code, and I didn't really have the desire to code. So the hardest part was finding a great team to do that and bring these ideas and concepts to life in a digital sense, digital real estate. So in that pursuit, there was a lot of failures, over, and I stayed with it. I guarantee, a lot of people wouldn't have. I can say that boldly.
Is there a moment, and I don't know if it's appropriate to call it like rock bottom necessarily, but like a low point where you were like, flip, man, I don't know if I want to keep going in this, and I don't know what I'm going to do, and I don't even know a way out of this?
Yeah, definitely. It was that. So it was, there was a couple of them. I think the first moment was we got a cease and desist. This was one of my first technologies that we did. We got a cease and desist from one of the largest law firms in the country. Because of the way an API, I didn't even know what an API was at the time, the way an API integrated with a platform, and that shut down a business. And we had to have this tough talk of like, okay, who are we? Who do we want to be? What are we going to do? It was this abrupt about face, and new direction change. That was one. And then the other one was, when we had spent an entire year failing and having tough crucial conversation, trying to get the right people or the wrong people to do the right thing. We hit this milestone where it's like, okay, we need to break this up. This isn't going anywhere. This isn't, so that was another moment where it's like, okay, well, who are we going to be? What are we going to do? What can we do? And man, so I've had several of those moments where it's like, okay, it was never an option for me to just quit, because I would rather pursue freedom than accept fear. Than truly accept fear. I think that's probably the best way to describe it. I am more afraid of not trying. And regret, like the pain of regret, than like not pursuing, because I can see that. And if I look forward, I think if everybody looks forward in their life right now, we don't get very many good years. The reality is no one's really an expert at this.
Right. Yeah.
Realistically, you get what, 70? People say this all the time. You're middle aged when you're 50. No, the hell you're not, dude. The reality is you're middle aged when you're like 35. Because most people
don't let my wife hear you say that.
I'm sorry.
I know I joke. That's what I said, though.
It's a painful truth, because the average age, you can Google it right now.
Yes,
it's like 70 or 70 something,
78, right?
Whatever it is. But it's like, once that hits, and then you realize, like, man, I don't feel like I've been alive that long already. This has gone very quick. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. First off, the second off is realizing, okay, my minutes matter, my seconds matter, my days matter, my decisions matter, my habits matter in that. And if you fast forward in those next 30 years, 40 years, whatever you have left, you can do your own calculation. You can almost arrive to where you'll be done in your hustle phase, and think about what you'll wish you would have done. And that to me is way scarier, or way, shittier of a thought than the pain of failure in pursuit of an attempt.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
No, I love that. And it's funny because mine is the 7-figure tech entrepreneur. I'm like, I see some parallels like in our journey, just like, when I was digging myself out, I was like, okay, the one thing I can't bring myself to do is to go back and be an employee. Like, and it's not to, there are people that make brilliant employees, and that's what they're cut out for. And I'm like, I sucked at being an employee. Like, the people look at my resume and go like, man, you had like 18 different jobs in like the first, 30 years of your life. Why? And it's like, because I get about 6 months in and I'm like, I want to pull my ears off and yank my hair out and run away screaming because, so there's just this pull, this urge, this desire, this longing to do something more. And so I set out and said, look, I'm going to build something that somebody can't take away from me. Because now I kind of lost everything. And so, here you've had some of these moments. So, if I could ask, you don't have to share any sensitive details if you don't want to, if it's like, what's the word? I can't remember. Anyways.
Classified.
There we go. Yeah, something along those lines. Stuff that's like related to technology and stuff that you can't publicly share, or whatever. But you have these moments like you're crying in front of your dad. What kind of brought you to that place where that's where you were at?
Man, as far as like where the tears, I'm an emotional dude. I mean, I'll be honest. I deeply care. I deeply care about people. I deeply care about the projects that I'm on. I deeply care that people and situations are that of growth and prosperity. Like, that matters to me. I like to make sure the garden is well kept. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing was the realization that it had failed, and taking ownership of that failure was really hard. And it was so hard that it forced like tears, like if I had to really try to unpack that, it was that, it was probably a lot of stuff that clogged the toilet. That made the tear ducts leak. But I think that was probably the main thing.
Yeah. You know what I think is really cool here, and why I love your story, and before we chatted, I mentioned another gentleman who I'd like to connect you with who has this amazing entrepreneurial story. But I think we have this idea around entrepreneurs and people who achieve a high degree of financial success that they're a certain type of person. And usually they're portrayed in a negative light, just trying to extract from people. They don't care. They just want to get rich at the expense of other people and so on.
Sure.
And I think you seem to be the opposite of that, where you're like, I want to help other people. And if I help other people succeed, it's inevitable that I'm going to be successful.
Yeah, no, totally, dude. And we talked about this briefly even before this started, like my mindset on making money, my mindset or ideology of who rich people were and who they are and those characteristics became like this apprehension or fear. Like, I had fear of success. As dumb as crazy as that sounds. Yeah. Like, and I'm still, that's probably a place where I'm at even now, is giving myself permission to get past conscious and subconscious blocks that I have centered around money and how it can be used and who I don't want to become, because I've met people that are super unhappy rich people and super unfulfilled rich people, not wealthy in my mind. And I never want to become that. I've actually met, just recently I got back from San Diego. I was at a War Room conference, which is like an invite only, top level internet marketer, business people, like Fortune 75 guys were there, just like awesome people. And a couple things from that. One, it's crazy. Like, every time I've gone to an event where there's like really high level people, one thing that stands out to me is a large majority of them that I end up talking to, whether it's, I don't know what's going on there, or if it's everybody there, but everybody had like this, relationship with God. And they were totally open about saying that. And they were like, they were like full of light, which was really cool. So that was one thing that stood out. But the other thing that stood out was, the people that I connected with were genuinely good people. Like we're using their money as a tool for their family, using their money as a tool for other opportunities, and they're providing jobs. And it was just, it was good people. I'm not saying that everybody is that way, right? Of course. But as far as like who I want to become, I want to maintain that really, and use money as a tool to build and do more stuff. There's a world, dude, you don't need more. If you're making 20 grand a month, you're set. Like you can live anywhere. You can start doing things like, not that there's anything wrong making more than that. It's fine. But the reality is, I think one of the important pieces is knowing what you're going to do as you get past that.
Yeah.
And how you're going to allocate it. And that becomes a part of your plan, which gives you inspiration to grow.
Yeah. So are you at the place, and again, you don't have to answer anything more personally you don't want to, but are you at the place where you could potentially say, like, financially, I don't have to worry about money for the rest of my life?
Yes. Like I'm at a place where I, and I've done that. So that's a couple things. I'm a big frog in a little pond where I live.
Right.
So like, is that the right way to say it? I'm a frog in a little pond. I don't know how to say it. I think you guys get what I'm trying to say. I am. So I live out in the Midwest. I'm not out in, Southern
Silicon
California.
Valley. Yeah.
Right. Like my house I bought everything in cash. I've set myself up to be very abundant and not have to have the various worries and stuff. I worked really hard early on to keep this infrastructure and logistics really, really small and easy to manage. Number one, because I'm an idiot and I'm not very good with I wanted to keep it idiot proof and keep it really small and without the stress. But then, number two, the cost of living out here is exceptionally low. And I love that my family's out here. Anyway, that I've set myself up to not have to make a lot, even to be extremely rich. So
right.
It's a ratio, right? It's how much you make versus how much you spend. Yeah. And I make substantially more than what I'm spending, like to be brutally honest, without going into like exact number.
No, of course. But and I appreciate your willingness to share, because I think sometimes this is an uncomfortable conversation for so many people because it's a struggle. And, people might look at that. They have these, they might, because now I imagine, so you find yourself in this position now where you have abundance, where you are wealthy relative to probably the majority of the world's population, actually. And I have to imagine like that attracts a certain type of challenge and struggle as well. And even like people wanting to come into your life with less than savory motives, could we say?
Sure. Yeah. Most people have no idea who the hell I am. I'm just now building a personal brand. I'm just now putting myself out there. So I haven't acquired a lot of haters yet. I haven't acquired a lot of the mean people yet that are out there. And, my intentions are good. I know where they're at. And what I'm sharing is, for me, it's irrelevant that like the ripples of the waves per se, because my intentions are to serve and to glorify my creator through what I'm able to create, give, and share and pass. And that's my hope. That's the spark of all this is, yes, I want to create more income. Yes, but I know it's going to be as a result of providing more service. You're paid in direct proportion to your ability to solve problems. And the only reason I can solve problems, I believe, is through the creator. So if I can glorify through this somehow, and I'm still, learning this is the process. I've got out of my own fear way there. Yeah. Then cool. That's what I'm going to do. So, man, that's where I'm at right now. But as far as like, people attacking, there's been a couple situations where some people just don't like me, dude. And they've done like some sabotage type stuff where I was speaking at an event and somebody sent an email out and tried to do it anonymously and say, hey, you shouldn't work with him because this and this. It's just their own, but even those scenarios, it's like, I'm at a place where I know that person's doing that for a reason. And I genuinely like wish them the best. Like instead of being angry or hateful, I try to unpack that situation and think about it. And instead of holding animosity or these negative things about that individual or situation, I just started this like recently, but in the morning, like I'll try to think about them and genuinely like wish them well. Like put that out instead of like talking about them toxically or thinking about the situation toxically. Again, it's all about flipping the switch and how you look at the world around you, man. And like, so that person, I'll say their name and I start associating that name with goodwill and prosperity for that person, dude.
Yeah. That's incredible.
As crazy as that is, but it's helpful it's helpful, I feel like, for both of us.
And what it speaks to is you joke about making things idiot proof and stuff, but you have this zone of genius where you really understand human behavior, and, again, go back to my story just to create a bit of a parallel here. Like I was nearly murdered like 11 years ago. I was nearly beaten to death, and that really messed with my head. There's a whole story behind that, but it really messed with my head. But the way forward, or at least part of for setting myself free from that, was to forgive the men who did that to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I did that was I tried to cultivate a sense of compassion, where I asked the question, what happened to them in their life to get them to the place where this is what they were doing?
Right.
And so instead of saying, because, I think it's really natural for us to want to make it about our ego. Like, they did this to me, the most special, person in the universe. How dare they, I'm the greatest person in my own world and all of this. And I was like, hang on a sec. They didn't even know who I was.
Right.
They didn't know who Jonathan was. They didn't care. I just happened to represent something to them that they felt had historically oppressed them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just happened to be the random dude that was like, came across their path when they had these sort of intentions.
Yeah. And you show compassion to that now. Like you unpacked it enough where you love on them. It's the craziest thing, but and it's healing, because then it gives you clarity for, okay, I get it now.
Yeah. Well, I got tired of being angry. Like I didn't want to be angry, because like it's hard carrying like anger and hatred in your heart. Like it just is.
Definitely. No, I totally agree. That's part of the reason I was looking for a solution. Because I'm, again, being aggressively curious is a double-edged sword. Like, because if somebody does me wrong, if somebody hurts me, I try to understand. Well, why, dude? I'm me. I like me. I think I'm a nice guy. Like, I wouldn't do that to you, And so to realize that hurt people. And to not have to really unpack all that fully for every situation that occurs.
Right. Yeah.
But just get into a system where I can, okay, I'm going to wish that person well, man. I'm going to wake up and pray for the haters or the angry people that have decided that I'm a target or I'm a threat for whatever reason. And it's the polar opposite, bro. Like I would say 99.9% of the time, I'm the guy that if you hit up and I've got the time and I've got a solution or an idea or an answer, I want to give that to you.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
So
no, that's amazing. And it's, I really appreciate your time, just in terms of taking the time to have this conversation. I don't remember if I reached out to you or if someone on your team reached out to me. I don't even remember how this happened, but I was like,
I'm thankful for it, man.
Yeah, no, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. And so, if we were to sort of tie in a nutshell, maybe how do, wrapping up just a little bit of wisdom to kind of close this out. If you could just share something with people that they could take away from this, because, you've got to maybe a place in life where not a lot of people get to.
Sure.
And so you have the benefit of this really unique perspective, but you've kind of built this yourself.
Yeah. So, yeah. I if there's something that I could give somebody that's just generalized in the last 30 seconds or whatever, I wish we could all be around each other for a long time and you could see how I operate and get more insight and information. But if I had to summarize it or give like a short snippet, it's life can either refine you or define you. And it's totally up to you. In situations where things suck or when you've been dealt a bad card, you can either learn from that or shrink from that. And it's totally up to you. And I would urge you to always adapt and overcome. I would urge you to realize that you're worth the solution. And I would urge you to pursue your God-given abilities, talents, gifts. And that would be, if I could try to.
No, I love that. And really that, that's awesome, because the best advice is the stuff that's memorable. It can either refine you or define you. And and it's almost like the Viktor Frankl idea that, like, in whatever situation you find yourself in, one thing you retain is the power to choose how you're going to interpret what's happening to you.
Yeah. See, there's smarter guys out there than me that have already said this stuff. I somehow regret. I made it a Timism, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, man, I super appreciate you hanging out and chatting today. It's been such a pleasure. And I think I love for people to be able to see how just genuine and down to earth you are and how sincere you are in wanting to be a force for positive change in the world. We need more guys like you. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, thanks again for having me, John. It's been awesome. And I'm looking forward to a long-term relationship with you and whomever else that comes from this. So thank you for the stage, man.
You betcha. And thanks everybody for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed this, and make sure you like, share, subscribe, and do all the stuff with all the buttons that makes this more people see this amazing story.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Between the Before and After. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like, share, subscribe, or leave a review, because that helps this podcast to reach and inspire more people. I love exploring the stories that take place between the before and after, the powerful experiences that shape who we become. And I love human potential. I love the possibilities that lie within us. So whatever you may be up against, I hope these stories inspire you, because if you're still here, your story's not done yet, so keep moving forward.
Anyone can come from any place of brokenness and destitution and build an amazing life.